And what Solomon is saying is the fact that, hey, riches and wealth and certain things in the hands of a person who is wise and generous is good for something. So he's saying that in the hands of a sordid, covetous miser, they're good for nothing. That's what he's saying. He says you can have all the wealth in the world, but the fact of the matter is, for a lot of people, they die in darkness. They never get to the point where they enjoy it. Why? Because it's never enough. It's never enough. We see that in our world today. It's never enough. Now let's look at what he says about these attitudes in verse number 1. He takes into account the possessions and enjoyments which such a man have. He has wealth, he has children to inherit it, and he lives long. Look at what he says: a man to whom God has given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. And so Solomon says, hey, it will eat you alive in the fact that when you strive after wealth and those things, in the heart of a selfish person, it's never enough. We want more. We desire more. We're never satisfied. We never get to that point of contentment. You know, when you think about it, think about in our lives, what's the most, what's one of the things that is the biggest miscontentment in a lot of people's life? It's our relationships. You know, the relationships. Relationships are important. Why? Because that's why God created us, is for relations. What did he say in the garden? Hey, when he created Adam, he says, you know what? It's not good for man to be alone. And so he created Eve. And they had children. Why? Because he created us to have relationships in our life. But when we look at the relationships of people in our life, you know what? Most people's relationships are a wreck. They're a train wreck. As we do funerals and things of that nature, it's just sad to see how many families don't communicate. And then we look at the public and we realize, you know what? A lot of relationships are in shambles. I mean, we think about young people who say, you know what, I want to grow up and be famous. Well, how strong are famous people's relationships? Not very much. Back in Hollywood, if a relationship can handle, 6, 7 months, that's pretty good. They're gone. I mean, think about it. I tell our young people all the time, these are supposed to be some of the most beautiful people in the world, some of the most important people in the world. And you know what? They get with somebody, and after 6 or 8 months, that person says, nah, moves on. And meanwhile, you have to ask yourself, what did that person give up in their personal beliefs along the way to get famous? We all have heard the sad stories of men and women and what they've had to compromise along the way because somebody says, well, if you want to be famous, this is what you have to do. And so we see all these things in our relationships and the wealth and in the pursuit. We even see people who, billionaires, that you think, my goodness, they have all they could ever need. And even their wives and their husbands one day wake up and say, no. And they leave. They realize, hey, don't care how beautiful, don't care how rich this person is, you're just not worth sticking around for. And so when we look at that in our lives, we see the destruction that happens, not only from that point of view, but as I said, and I've done a little bit more study on it, the fact that all these sports stars, 80% of them are broke by the time that they reach retirement. You know why? Because they trust their money to people and think that those folks are investing their money rightly, and meanwhile, they're siphoning things off. I mean, if you just listen to the last couple of days on the news of all the money that has been stopped and where it's been going for the biggest $50 million going to Gaza to purchase, if you've heard the report, purchase something that you wouldn't want your tax dollars going for. I mean, just ridiculous things that you hear. And you wonder, says here, he says, you know, people are wealthy, but the problem is they don't get the power to eat thereof. What does he say? They don't have the power to enjoy their wealth, so what happens? A stranger eateth it. How much of our taxes and the things that we pay go to things that we would not pay or want them going to? And so, unfortunately, we have to follow through with who we vote for. And I understand people have said, well, I don't go shop here or shop there because I know that Walmart supports this. And listen, if you boycotted every place that supported something that's Christian, you wouldn't even go out of the house. You sure wouldn't order online. And so the fact of the matter is, yes, there are certain things that, hey, I just go shop at Walmart because God knows that when I'm walking in there, I'm going for my bread and my eggs and my, well, my kid, I'm not going in there. My wife's going in there for the eggs and milk, all the things that we need to feed our family. Hey, God holds them responsible for what they do. Just like in our government, hey, we may not know what's going on, but God will hold them accountable for what's going on. So we pay into things, we do things, and people do crooked things with those things, so that sometimes people even worry, oh, what will happen if I lose it all? And that's where that love of money, it's not that money is wrong, is evil. The Bible says the love of money is evil, when it becomes the thing that we care about the most. And so we see that Solomon is saying, listen, we worry about those things, but we need to learn that when is enough enough? When are we to get to that point of contentment? And I believe the thing that underlines contentment really comes from the point of gratitude. Be thankful. I thought about it today, and I thought, no, I'm not going to ask it, but I'll just ask it corporately. I want is saying that, listen, we think that, hey, people with wealth and all those things, you know, they have everything that they want. But here's the thing, we don't know what's happening inside. In fact, it says here in verse number 3, it says, if a man beget 100 children and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he. What's he saying? It's better that an untimely birth, hey, something that wasn't even suggested would be better than somebody who lives a whole life and wastes it. Why? Because his soul isn't filled. He's not doing what God wants him to do. We say all the time, all of us have a call of God on our lives. Everybody has. Everybody who's been born has a call of God on their life. The question is whether they choose to follow it or not. It's sad to say, because people don't get saved and search after the call of God. They're out here doing all these things for all different kind of reasons, and the problem is that it's causing difficulty. Why? Because they're doing it for selfish gain rather than doing this for the Lord. As Solomon says, hey, riches and wealth are great if they're in the hand of somebody who's generous. What does 1 Corinthians chapter 9, I think it's verse 7, says? God loves a cheerful giver. And so, hey, when wealth lands in a person who's generous and sees wealth as something to give, it's a good thing. But hey, when it lands in the hands of somebody who's selfish, you know what? It can wield a lot of destruction. When we think about money, and we think about wealth, and we think about all these things, and the fact of the matter is as some people have said, those things are just magnifiers of what's already there. The fact of the matter is, if you're a jerk, you get a lot of money, but be a jerk. You know, it's just a magnifier of the character that's already there. And so, if you're selfish and you get put into a leadership position, that's a dangerous situation. Because everything you do will be done to try to make yourself look better. Hey, including, that's a big thing with pastors today. A lot of pastors are not trying to build the kingdom, they're trying to build a kingdom for themselves. They're trying to make themselves look good, so they're leaving the Word of God. And so Solomon said, hey, that's dangerous. That's vanity. Listen, I've seen it happen under the sun. Why? Because in verse 4 he says, he cometh with vanity and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. People think that, hey, look at this person, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, again, if you've been watching the news, you don't have to watch long to see that, hey, even pastors, that things are happening behind the scenes that people don't know about, and eventually it comes out in the open. And you think, my goodness, this person, I mean, it wasn't but a few months ago, there were 3 pastors in Texas, famous pastors, names that you would know. I mean, they got YouTube videos on YouTube, and they've got major ministries that all fell into immorality and had to resign from their churches. But you know what? It happens in our government. It happens in the music industry, as we found out a few months ago, that somebody who was a famous rap artist was doing some things on his island that people didn't know about. And guess what? It even influenced a lot of famous people were involved in it. And so we see all this sin that's going behind the scenes, and so we think, oh, they have everything with it. And then how many famous people have committed suicide? Why? Because they can't handle the situation. The drugs and the scene and all those things just become too much. And so Solomon says, hey, be careful, because it's vanity. And the problem is it's going to cause you to depart in darkness. People can think that, hey, you've got it all, but we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. It says in verse number 5, moreover, he has seen the sun, nor known anything. This hath more rest than the other though he live 1,000 years, his selfishness and his selfish desire will cause him to live in darkness. You know, he takes into account the possessions and enjoyment. He describes his folly and not taking the comfort of it. He has no power to eat of it. Strangers devour it. He condemns it as an evil, a common evil, vanity and disease. He prefers the condition of a stillborn child before the condition of such a one. He shows the vanity of riches as pertaining only to the body and giving no satisfaction to the mind. Look at what it says in verse 9. He says, better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. What is he saying? Hey, it's better that we see the results of what we're doing rather than the wandering of our desire, just going from one thing to the next. And why? Because the desire can be strong. When you think about it, you look at people who are on drugs and alcoholics, and you think, man, that is a powerful drug or a powerful addiction that's over their life. Because the desire is strong. The desire, whatever the desire is, sometimes they get into it to forget the situation that they're in. You know, an escape. If I take this drug, it will allow me to escape the situation. The problem is when you come back down from the drug, you're going to have to take more because now oftentimes you're in a worse situation than we are, and it takes a toll on you. Somebody who was a former drug addict said, you know, you would take drugs or you drink, get drunk, forget that you didn't have any food in your icebox. Then when you came back down off of the high, you found out somebody stole your icebox. You know, he says it's just a worse condition in our life. It's just a horrible condition of sin, and that's what Solomon is saying. We're just on this treadmill of worse and worse and worse. And so he says, listen, better to understand. And that's what we battle all the time when we think about the fairness. Why don't we see that our envy and all these things of trying to have what somebody else has is destroying our body? I mean, today we live in a day where stress probably affects more people than it ever does. And talking with pastors, mental health is disintegrating. People are, you know, at higher numbers are dealing with mental health. Why? Because we're in this race that we just realized we can't finish. Because we're thinking, you know, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and we're running around like crazy trying to achieve those things, and we just realize we can't get there. And then you have people who say, well, I should be able to have the same. No, you shouldn't. Why? Because maybe God never intended that. And maybe God didn't give you the gift in order to have that. But what he did give you is the choice that you can make, and it's all a choice that all of us can make, to just say, you know what I have, it's enough. What I have is enough. Why? Because in our contentment, we don't have to find the cruel reality of what the truth is, because oftentimes we look at people with all that stuff and say, they gotta be happy. They gotta be satisfied. Look at them over there. And the truth of the matter is, as Solomon says, you don't realize there's darkness in their souls because they're not satisfied. I mean, when I think about the famous people that I've heard that have committed suicide, you think, you know, even when they were at the top of their game, why in the world? To think that, you know, they were out front, they were carrying on, and it seemed like they just had the world, you know, they were at the top of the world, and then you find out, oh, last night they committed suicide, they overdosed. And what happened? Why? Because we did not realize what was going on in the soul of that person. You know, I've had even people in my life commit that I've known and close to that committed suicide, and you just think, huh, didn't even see it coming. You know, I often thought, if somebody's going to commit suicide right next to you, surely they'll show the signs. No, the fact of the matter is we don't know what's going on hearts and what's going through their minds. I mean, I took a psychology class, and the psychologist at the end said, the fact of the matter is, not even those of us who are, that are trained in psychology and psychiatry can fully diagnose a person. That's why when you see these folks who do crazy things, guess what? We keep talking about mental health. No, what we need is spiritual health. Because in most cases, you'll find out they were already seeing a mental doctor, psychiatrist, in most of those cases, and it was missed. Why? Because we can't see people's heart and minds. We can only judge their actions. We can only see what's on the outside. So it's a battle. So God says, hey, he says, better the sight of the eyes, better to realize what we're doing and realize the destruction than the wondering of the desire. Because this is all vanity and vexation of spirit. You're trying to fill that as some people have said, for years, I've tried to fill that God-sized hole in my heart with all kinds of stuff, except God. And I only found out when I filled it with God that it really filled that hole. And that's the problem. We try to fill it up with so many things, and we can't, because that hole that is in our heart is reserved for God. And yet we push God away, and we try so many things. Even Solomon did. He says that which is to have been named already, and it is known that it is man, neither may he contend with him, that is mightier than he. And so, hey, you can contend with God. You can think that you can be God and have all sufficient, but you know what? You're going to find out that only when you allow God to enter into your life can you get to the point of contentment. Are there times where we can look at stuff and say, man, that'd be nice to have? Yeah. So he says in verse 12, in closing, he says, "For who knoweth what is good for man in his life, all the days of his vain life, which he spendeth as a shadow? For who can tell a man that it shall be after him under the sun?" I like what he says. Spend your whole life as a shadow. Think about that. Think about the fact that you lived your whole life, but you were just a mere shadow. You never fulfilled your full potential before God. You were just a shadow of what God wanted to do with you. You know, we've read Psalm 23 at a lot of funerals, and he speaks about the fact that though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I never realized the fact that I believe he's saying there, and I've looked into it, and some other people agree with me, but I'm sure you could interpret it another way. But I believe he's saying, listen, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, the fact of the matter is, every day we walk on, we're on this earth, we're in the shadow of death. Could be our last moment. Young man died in a car crash. He didn't think that morning when he got up, you know what, I'm going to be gone before the day's over. He didn't think that. He was planning on what he was going to do for the next couple of days, probably had his week planned out, all those things. So we realize we're in the shadow of death. Every day that we walk, it's an opportunity that we may lose our life. And the fact of the matter is, hey, we walk in our life as a shadow. The fact that God is calling us to do something, and now I'm just going to stand over here and do my own thing. And so, the shadow. And that's why people, a lot of times in their life, when you talk about people who want to be something different than what they are, it's because they looked in the mirror and they realized they're but a shadow. They need to change something. Now, these poor kids who are trying to be different genders, which we understand they can't be. The science is there. Boy cannot be a girl cannot be a boy, all that. But I said, you know, the challenge is, and really it breaks your heart to think that as they wake up every morning, they look into the mirror and they say, I hate what I see. I hate what I see. And I'm willing to do anything to change what I see. And the truth of the matter is, it stems from the same problem that Solomon is saying, a lack of contentment and great gratitude in our life to realize, listen, this is the way God created me, and guess what? God can use me just the way he created me, and to realize that, hey, I have a purpose in Christ. And so that's really what Solomon is saying, listen, you can have all the things in life you want. People can look at you and think that, man, you've got it all together. But the truth of the matter is, you know what? We as human beings don't know what's going through those people's lives. And we have plenty of examples that we can look at to see the destruction that is in those people's lives. And also to realize, you know, one thing I learned at an early age, there's only so many, I say this in quotes, beautiful people somebody